All right, hello once again, Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College. And in my last presentation, I went over Chapter 1 of our Murox C# 7th edition text, which will be used for the AWD1100 Programming Fundamentals with C# course. So I have now only done how to get started with Visual Studio. So today I'm going to go over how to design a Windows form application. So let's get to that one, please. Whoops. All right. As always is done here in the Murox textbooks, we start after our cover page by going over the applied and the knowledge objectives. So this is about the form designer. So this will be basically an extension of what we went over in the last chapter. So we'll talk about that, a little bit about customizing our Visual Studio environment, and then we'll go in and start taking a look in more depth and breadth of coverage over what actually we get with Visual Studio. All right. Now they go and they bring up this options dialog box. I'm not sure why they do this, but let's take a look at it. In fact, I do know why. Let's take a quick look. So this is under options, and it looks like locations. So let's bring that back up. This is the one I created in the last chapter. So I'm going to go under tools, options, and it doesn't even look like there is a locations in here anymore. I don't know, is that extensions? Let's see. It was under options, projects and solutions locations. All right, so let's find projects and solutions. There we go. And is there a locations on here? There it is. All right, well, live and learn. Project location. So basically what this is saying is where by default do you want to save your projects? All right, and I'm going to come in here and just change mine to my desktop. Okay. All right, and these project templates, I don't even know what they are. I've never used them, so I'm just going to click OK. All right. Takes care of that. Now, we have looked at this a little bit before, but I'm going to bring it up again, and this is our Create New Project window, because in this chapter, they have you create this. So I'll create it, and I'm even going to add the code. All right, so let's bring up our Create New Project. So this, again, was what I had done in the last chapter, so I'm just going to do a file, save all. Always a good idea to do that before you exit, rather. And I can exit in a lot of different ways. If I wanted to totally get out of Visual Studio now, I could click the X, or I could do a file exit. I don't really want to do that. All right, I want to do a file close solution, and that brings this up. So I'm going to create that new project right now. And again, where it says what would you like to do, we're either going to come in here, and almost always we're going to do create a new project. And again, yours might now have, if you followed along with me, one project in here. All right, so I'm going to create a new project. And it will again be a Windows Forms application. So I could either click here, or I can come up here and type in Windows Forms. And you always want to make sure you choose the one for .NET Framework. So again, last time I double clicked on here, I'll single click and choose Next. Notice it now is smart enough that it has changed my default location to my desktop. So what is this one call that we're going to create here? Invoice total. All right, so that's what we'll call it. So let's call this project Invoice Total Project, and I'll call this solution Invoice Total Solution. This is earlier where they talked about the framework, the stuff that's in here. All right, and notice there's even a later one than what I have. I always just use the default. All right, so I'm going to click Create. It'll take a second. There's my solution, Invoice Total Solution. There's my project, invoice total project. I'm going to make this a little bit more narrow because the one they had you create in the text looked like it was a little bit more narrow. So in a couple minutes, I'm going to create that. All right. So we've now gone over this as far as creating a new project. We'll continue to do this and continue to create new projects as the semester goes on. All right. And I just showed you how we could go in there and reset the location and the project name and the solution name. So you've seen that. So let's do this. As I like to do, I'm going to grab this and I'm going to make a printout of it. Not a printout, but just a picture of it. So this is what we're about to create. Notice up here it has invoice total and it has 1, 2, 3, 4 of these labels. Labels basically show descriptive text. And you can see that they're all left justified. So I will do the same thing. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4 text boxes. Out of these 4 text boxes, 1, 2, 3 of them are read-only, and that's why they look grayish. And we also have 2 buttons, a calculate button and an exit button. Okay, so I'm going to build this for you right now. As they mentioned here, a label displays text on a form. Typically, it's a heading. A text box either allows you to enter information or it shows you in existing information. And buttons typically are where you put your code. All right, so I'm going to build that for you, as I said, right now. So let's see, I want to keep this up there. And I could really split my screen. So I could split this in half. All right, maybe I should do that. Maybe that'd make it a little easier to see what's going on here. Okay, and I'll cut that down and a little more. And also this. There we go. All right, so you can watch what I'm doing, so to speak. So the first thing I'm going to do is change the text for my form. It says Form 1 by default. I'm going to change it to Invoice Total. Okay, so I click here on my form. I'm going to go down to Text in my Properties window, and I'm going to put here Invoice Total. So now that's been changed. All right. Now, you can see that we do have the little icon there also. So let's come in and let's add first our four different labels. So go over here to label, boom, and almost always what you'll do once you add that is you'll go to the property over here that's called auto size, and it's a little counterintuitive. It's set to true, which means you can't auto size it. By setting it to false, you can. I would have done it the other way, but they never asked me to write this. So there's the first one that we're going to create. All right, and there will be subtotal, discount percent, discount amount, and total. Let's just do these one at a time. So I'm going to change this to LBL subtotal, and I'm going to put the text here, change it to subtotal. Now you'll notice too that it has an underscore there. And to get that underscore, whatever letter you want to be underlined like that, you put an ampersand before it. So this now is ampersand subtotal. All right, a little hard to see. But let me go and let me copy this. And our next one will be discount percent. So we'll have LBL discount percent, and I will put the actual text that goes in here. There's nothing underlined, so I'll just put in discount percent. Now we've got that one done. So there's two of them. Let's put in our next one, and that says discount amount. So this will become LBL discount amount. And again, I'll come down here and put discount amount. Oops. Well, I guess I spelled that wrong. Still is wrong. There we go. So I've now got 3 of them. Let's add the last one. All right, and this is total. So as you'd probably guess, it'll be LBL total. And the text will be just total. All right, so these are all done. So that is this. Now, just so you know, let's say, it's kind of hard to read, so let's make them bigger. Now, I made that lasso around them, so I've highlighted them all. And now I'm going to go over to where it says font. And if I click on that, it'll bring up an ellipsis. It's kind of hard to see, but let me move this over. Well, it's supposed to anyway. And if I come into here, usually it brings it up, and it's not. I'm not sure why, but that's okay. So it asks the type of font we're using and the size, etc. Let's change this from 8.25 to 18.25. And you can see it's not showing on the screen, but we'll fix that in just a second. All right. And we will say we want it bolded also. So it's now bold. Now, it looks a little bit different, of course, but let's grab this again and let's stretch this out. All right, now it looks much more reminiscent or similar, whatever you want to call it, there to here. Okay, now let's go in and add our 4 text boxes. All right, I'm going to make this a little wider, and I'm going to change the size of that as well. All right, and what do I mean? I'm going to come down here, and for the font size, I'm going to again make that 18.25. And again, we'll make it bold. Okay, so let's take that and immediately copy and copy and copy. Now, you may or may not agree with this, but to me this looks a little bit cluttered. So I'm going to take these and I'm going to move them down. All right, and then one at a time, I'm going to reposition them where I'd like them. I'll do the same thing with these. Let me move that out of the way. That actually looks pretty good. There, that looks a little nicer in my opinion. So we've got that. We'll put that. Oops. And that. And that. It's just a little more spaced out. That's all. All right, I mean, this isn't perfect, as you can see, but it's not bad either. I can take these if I want to, move them up a little bit there. That looks pretty good. Finally, let's add my 2 buttons, my calculate and my exit. So I'm going to go back up here to the buttons. We'll do the same kind of thing as far as I'm going to make the size for the font. I'll make it 18.25. Oops, not 88.25. 18.25, and again, we will bold it. All right, and I will change, well, let's just copy it right away. So that'll be our other one, so that'll be our exit button. All right, now I went and changed the names here, so LBL subtotal, LBL discount percent, LBL discount amount, and total. So let's change these as well. All right, so this will become TXT subtotal. This one will become TXT discount percent. This one will become TXT discount amount. And this will become TXT total. All right, and the buttons, this one will become BTN calculate, and we will put the word calculate there, and the C should be underlined. So I will put ampersand CALCULATE, and I guess I need to make that a little bit wider. There we go. And our other button, so did I change that? Yes, I did. This will be exit. So this will be BTN exit. And the X here is what's underlined, which is common. So X ampersand, or E ampersand XIT. So that's done. Now I pretty much have my interface built. Okay? Now a couple things. Remember those fields here, these three are read-only. So I'm going to highlight these three fields. I'm going to go to my read-only, and I can either click on it, and it'll show me if I move this over, or I can just double-click, and now they're read-only. So now I'm pretty much finished with my interface. I'm going to highlight all of it by drawing that invisible lasso around it. And I'm going to do one more thing first, and that is, this is butting up here, and I don't like that, so I'm just going to make this a little smaller. There. Looks a little nicer. You really probably can't tell much of a difference, but I could. So again, I'm going to do a Control-A to highlight them. Right mouse click and choose Lock Controls. Now my interface is locked into place. All right. If I click on here on an empty spot on the form and I go over to Start Position, I wanted to set that to center screen, and it is. So now if I do a file, basically if I just save what I'm working on here, so I do a file, save all, and I run this, there it is. And that looks pretty good. It's not perfect. All right, it's not exactly the way it is there. There they had stuff lined up, so I could move this over if I want to, etc. It's, again, not a big thing one way or the other. All right. And I will tell you that it used to be when I would do this stuff, I'd be so anal about everything. I mean, I'd have to go in there and I'd have to right mouse click on here, choose Lock Controls, move that over, then move that over a little bit, then do another Control-A and lock my controls again. I don't really care that much, to be honest with you. It looks fine the way it is. All right, so let's jump back into our textbook. All right, so we've just created this interface as you have been shown. All right, so yeah, that I could have, and the way you do this is totally up to you. Here they're adding the labels, then the text boxes, then the buttons, but you should always, always, always set up your interface, rename your controls, and then add the code. And I will show you why in just a little bit. All right, so there's three ways to add a control to a form. You can select the control in the toolbox and drag it out. You can double click on it, or you can click on it, click back on the form, and click again. So there's always, you'll end up, what will end up happening is you'll fix the one that you were most, or you'll pick the one rather, that you were most comfortable with. All right, it's just, that's just common sense. So to select a control, you click on it. You can move it by dragging it around. You can resize it by grabbing its handles. You can select one or more. They say by holding Shift or Control as you click, and you can do that too. I just was drawing that. They call it lassoing controls, where you draw the invisible box around there. All right, and you can align these things as well. Just to show you quickly about alignment, if I go back into here, what you will notice, and some of this I've shown you already. Now, there's nothing wrong with the way this looks. It looks just fine. But if I did go and highlight all these, and then I went over to where it has text align, it's set to top left. I usually like mine middle right. So I like the way that looks better, but just to show you what you can do. All right. And if I highlight all of these boxes, just the boxes here, and I go here to text align, before there it showed me a picture, but now for the text, I want it to be, whoops, not there. My text align, I want it to be center. Now everything that I add in here will be added in the center. And also, you may or may not have noticed this before, but when I run this, since these are read-only, I can put whatever I want in here, but I can't put anything in there. I put my mouse there, but I can't put anything there. And again, these are not operational right now. Only that is. Okay? All right. and I'm going to keep doing this while I'm going through these PowerPoints, and that is build the project that they show, but go back and forth between the project and the text that's here. All right, you can size all the controls. Yeah. You change the size of the form. Yeah, you can do all that stuff. All right, so here's what it looks like, exactly what ours looks like. Okay. Now the name property, as it says, and you've seen a little bit of this already, as it says here, that's probably the most important thing that's been in this chapter thus far, and that is it is the name that you use to identify the form or the control, and the form is just a control in your code. All right, you can change it to anything you want. I've already shown you the prefixes, so in other words, my forms should always begin with FRM, my buttons with BTN, my labels with LBL, and my text boxes with TXT. Those are Microsoft naming conventions. It doesn't mean you have to follow those, but I will expect you to. All right. It says, yeah, you can change this, but you don't have to. The text property, again, that's what it actually shows itself. So if we go back here, the name of the field is LBL subtotal. That's its name property. Its text property is ampersand subtotal semicolon. In the same way with this one, the name of it is TXT subtotal, and it has nothing in its text because it's empty. And the same with these other three. And for my button, BTN calculate with the text ampersand calculate, and BTN exit with the code or text E ampersand XIT. Again, I can always come up here. I like to click here and come over here, and I can check to make sure. Well, notice I didn't change the name of my form. So let's do that right now. And this is called invoice total. So I'm going to right mouse click. Don't change these. Go up to the form1.cs, right mouse click, choose rename, and you don't have to change the CS. So I'm going to put in here FRM in lowercase, invoice total. When you are naming these things, again, do not use blank spaces. Run words together like I'm showing you here. This is also known as camel case notation. Hit enter, it'll say, hey, do you want everything, all the internal references changed? Yes. Now when I go in here and look, whoops, if I click over here, try that again. Click over here and click down. Now you'll notice that everything has been changed so that everything that's in here, they all have the recommended Microsoft prefixes. Okay. So text property sets the text that's displayed. For a form, as it says, the text is displayed in the title bar. For a text box, quite often there'll be nothing in there, and that's what they're saying. Some of the other properties for forms, let's look at those. All right. There's an accept button and a cancel button. I've already shown you start position. Accept button is, what that means is when I run this program, if I hit enter, what button do we want to have fire? And if I hit escape, what button do we want to have fire? Well, let's just set those here. We'll say that when our accept button will be calculate and our cancel button will be exit. Now you don't click on the buttons, you click on the form. And I'm going to go up to accept button, and I'm going to choose BTN calculate. Then I'm going to click on the form again and go down to cancel button, and I'm going to set that to BTN exit. And if you say I don't know what those mean, you will see them in action in just a couple minutes. All right, so file, save all. And we're about halfway through with the slides in this chapter. So here's some other controls. If something is disabled, you set the enabled property to false. I've already shown you read only. Let's look at tab index. Let's look at that one right now. All right. Now, if I run this program the way it is right now, if I run the program the way that it is right now. Just run this. I'm going to keep hitting the tab key. Well, you'll notice where my cursor is. So tab, 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 tab. That's good. It actually is set the way it should be. But let's just say it wasn't. So in other words, let's say that when the program started, let's say my cursor was down there. All right, it shouldn't have been there, but that's where it is. So I can go back and I can reset my tab order at any time. The easiest way to do this, and when I'm showing you this stuff, I'm trying to show you what I consider to be the most intuitive way of doing something. So I'm going to click on the form, and I'm going to go to View, Tab Order, which is about 3/4 of the way down, and make this 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, technically, I don't even have to change these because you can't, labels cannot get the tab order, but I always change everything. I think that's a good idea. So 6, 7, 8, 9. When you're done, you've got to you view it, make sure it looks okay, then do another view, tab order, and the numbers will go away. It won't look any different when I run this now. All right, because it would already, the tab order was already set correctly. All right, so I'm going to do another file, save all on here, just so it's saved. And let's jump back into here. All right, the tab stop, I don't think that's that big a thing. I don't very rarely set that. And I showed you text align already. All right, remember I aligned the text for my labels so they were center aligned. All right. So I just showed you the tab orders. I don't think we have to talk about that. Access keys are what I showed you with the ampersand there. We'll look at how that's used in just a moment. How to set the enter and escape keys. I showed you the accept button. I showed you the cancel button. So you've seen those. And there's other properties as well. All right. And in fact, every one of these that you see right here, I've already set for you and I've shown you how to do that. We'll go over that again in class as many times as necessary until it makes sense to all of you. Here were the settings for everything else. Now, notice that for the labels, they set the tab index here, and they didn't set anymore, and they don't have the tabs. What I said is just fine. Here's the rest of it. All right. I renamed the form just like they showed here, so that's been done. And they show you in here how you can rename things. All right. Have a read on that if you're so inclined. We've talked about how to save. All right. And here they tell you to design a form that lets the user enter a number grade. In fact, let's go back and we'll do that one in just a couple minutes. How's that? But I want to go in here and I want to put in this code. So let's go through here, and with what we've got right there, let's run this. All right. Now there's no code in there yet, but let's put in our calculate and our exit. Now exit, when I double click on this, it brings up the code window for it. So there's my calculate. And if I double click again, it'll bring up, that's for my exit. So those are both in there. Now I'm going to send this, what I'm about to show you, I'm going to send this to everybody, but I've got a little boilerplate code that I always put in for my exit button. Why? I just do. So let me go back to here, and here, and here. All right, let me come in here, type in exit button. There it is. It's not a lot of code, it's a few lines. There it is. And again, you will all get sent this. All right, I promise. All right, so let's go back to here and let's put in that code. All right, now I don't expect any of this to make sense, but I'll tell you what we'll do. And that is, I'm going to move this over. Okay, I'm going to run the program. And I'm going to click the exit button, just so you can see this. All right. So let me move this. Dialog result dialog. It brings up a message box that says, do you really want to exit? Well, there's that. Do you really want to exit? Exit now. That's its title. it gives you an option of yes or no. That's this. It's a question mark for the icon. That's there. And what this says is if you press yes, exit the application. So I'll press no, which keeps me in the application. And if I press X, boom, now I've just ended normally. That wasn't hard. All right. Now, in order to do what I'm going to show you here, I'm going to have to introduce a couple things you haven't heard yet. All right. So when we look in here, we've got a discount percent, a discount amount, and a total. Okay. All right. Now, I'm not going to worry. It's quite possible that I'm going to show you how I can break my program real easily. But I'm going to come in here and say const double. In fact, let's do a, yeah, that's fine. Const double discount percent equals 0.10. Okay. And then I'm going to say what else is in here. With our discount percent, we'll have a discount amount and a total. Okay. Let's see. So I'm going to come in here and say double discount, whoops, discount, spell Jeff, discount amount, and I'm going to set that equal to 0.0, and I'm going to have another double that's total, and I'm going to set that equal to 0.0. Now, if you are real anal about this stuff, after you put the stuff in, you can do this, okay, and line stuff up. I don't care if you do that or not. Do what you're comfortable with. But let's look at these 3 lines of code. Okay. First thing in here, this is our percent. So what is that? It's 10%. Now notice it's a constant because it's always going to be 10%. We're just pretending that for right now. This discount amount, well, we have to put in a subtotal here. And this will be 10%. So if I put in 100 here, and that's 10%, then the discount amount should be $10, and 100 minus $10 should be 90. So that's the way that the program should run. Now I did miss a thing in here, and that is I did not put in subtotal. Again, I'll set that equal to 0.0. Now, technically, it is not mandatory that you initialize these variables. These are variables. They're things that can vary. These are 3 variables here, and that's a constant. It doesn't vary. All right? So I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to say subtotal equals, now I want to take whatever I put into that text box for my subtotal, and I want to convert it. I want to convert it to a number because it's not a number right now. Don't worry if you don't get this. To double txt subtotal.text. Okay? I'm going to show you how easy it is to break the program in a minute. All right. And let's see. Discount amount. That's equal to the subtotal times our discount percent. That's our discount amount. And our total is going to be equal to our subtotal minus our discount amount. Now again, if you're real anal about this, we can line this stuff up so it all looks nice and pretty. Some people find that easier, some people find that harder to work with. All right, so let's come in here and say now we want to fill our stuff in. So our discount percent, txt discount percent dot text equals our discount percent dot toString. I'm just showing you this. We'll go over all of it in a minute. Okay. TXT discount amount dot text. That's going to be equal to our discount amount dot toString, and I want this to be formatted so that it's a percentage, and I want this to be formatted so that it's currency. All right, and then finally txt total dot text, and that's going to be equal to my total dot toString. And again, I want that to be currency. Now, as long as I put a number in there, everything is, as the saying goes, hunky-dory. So let's look, and then we'll come back and look at the code that's in here. So save all, and then let's run this. All right, so I'll put in $100. Use something that's simple. Now I can click calculate, and there's all my stuff. 10%, 100 times 10% is $10. 100 minus $10 is 90. Okay? If I change this to 300 and I click calculate, notice that's now 30, etc. Now I can also come in and type in, let's say, 1,000 here, and instead of clicking calculate, since I have set my accept button, I can just hit enter. All right, and I can click exit. If I want to exit, I'm going to say no, or I could hit the escape key. And now I'll say yes. Now I want to do one more thing, and then we're going to come back and look at all this code. And that is, I'm going to add another button here. So I'm going to move this one over. Okay, and it's probably not going to have enough room. Nope, too close. There. So this button I'm going to put right here. In fact, I'm going to make this wider. And we'll move this over a little bit. There we go. Okay, not perfect, but it'll be fine. There. Now this button here right now doesn't have a name. It's got text on it, but it doesn't have a name. In fact, let's do a Control A again, and let's relock our controls up. But this one I'm going to change to clear. So I'm going to call this BTN clear, and the text on it will be the word clear, and let's make that, the L will make that. So C ampersand LEAR. So now we've got a clear button. That way we can clear these fields out that are in here. All right, so now I'm going to put those in. How do I do that? I'm going to say txt discount, in fact it was txt total dot text equals nothing. Txt discount amount dot text, that's equal to nothing. Txt what else was there? I think that should be total dot text equals nothing. This one should be subtotal. Okay, oh, didn't like that. Should be probably a big S. There we go. And what else? I'm missing something. It was the discount percent. I don't want that to be changed, so I'm going to leave that the way it is. Okay, now I've got something in here that anytime I press the clear button, I'm clearing out my fields. What does that mean? Well, let me save and let me run this again. So there's my, so I'm going to put in 100 and hit enter. Boom. Now when I click clear, boom. The other thing I'd like is I like my cursor to go right back in there. So I'm going to say txt subtotal dot, I wanted to get what's called the focus. So let's check that out again. Put a different number in here, 200. Hit enter. Okay, hit clear. Boom. There's my cursor. Now I want to change one thing, and then I'm going to explain all the code to you. That is, my cancel button was set to exit. I don't like that. I always set my cancel button to be to clear. So there's cancel, and I'm going to reset that to clear. All right. So now when I run this, and I put in anything here, and I hit the escape key, boom, it clears. I like that. This is coming together. So let's take a couple minutes and go over all of the code that's in here. But first, we jump back into here because I think I've just about reached the end of the chapter, and I have. So we'll do this in a separate lecture in just a couple minutes, okay? All right. So looking at the code here, this is a constant. What that means is while the program is running, this value cannot change. So it's going to be 10%. These are not constants. Constants don't have to be capitalized, but by convention, they are to show that they're a constant. These are regular variables, so their values can change. The way that the way that C# works is even if I left out this equal sign, it would automatically initialize them anyway to 0. But I like to do it myself. Okay? Then we come in here and we say, hey, take whatever we put into that text box for our subtotal, convert it to a double. Why? Because it's a double that we want it to be. All right? So take whatever was in that text box, convert it to a double, and throw it into our double variable called subtotal. Then take that new variable we just created, multiply it by 10%, and that becomes our discount amount. Then take our subtotal, which we did up here, subtract from that the discount amount, which we just did, and that becomes our total. When you start going over this, in many ways, it's very intuitive. All right. Then for our exit, okay, and I'm going to move this down. Typically, you wouldn't do what I'm about to do, but I'm going to move that down anyway. Why? Because I like to put my code in the same order my buttons are. You don't have to do that, but I like doing that. So there's my calculate that we just went over. Here's the clear. And again, this says clear out the first text box, clear out the second text box, clear out the first text box. The second one has got our 10% in that we don't change. So clear out the first one, clear out the third one, clear out the fourth one, and put my cursor back into the first one. And I already went over the exit with you. So I don't think we have to do that again. And again, we'll look at this in class. Promise. So let me do this before I finish up. I'll be done literally in a matter of seconds here. But I'm going to come in here and I'm going to grab this, do a print screen on that, come back to here, paste that in. Again, this is just something I like to do. By no means do you have to do something like this. Let's bring all this in there. So design a form, file new. All right, so that's what I'll build in just a second in the second part of this lecture. I'll be back for that in just a moment.